Nobody in that studio understood what they were about to witness when Jennifer Matthews stepped up to the Fast Money podium. It looked like just another Family Feud episode, another hopeful family chasing prize money under bright lights and applause, but something was already wrong. You could see it in Jennifer's face before she ever opened her mouth, the way her shoulders sagged slightly, the way her smile took effort, the way her eyes carried exhaustion that sleep alone could never fix. She wasn't nervous, she was fighting her own body, and she was losing. One moment she was standing there answering questions, trying to hold herself upright long enough to finish the game, and the next moment her legs simply gave out. No warning, no drama, just gravity taking over. Steve Harvey lunged forward instinctively, catching her before she hit the stage floor. His voice changed instantly. This wasn't television anymore. "Get a doctor, now. Someone call for medics." The audience screamed. Her family rushed the stage, and in the middle of the chaos, her husband, Michael, dropped to his knees beside her, his face breaking as he whispered something that confused everyone who heard it. No, not yet. She hasn't heard yet. Nobody knew what he meant. Not yet heard what? The medics arrived quickly, checking vitals, lifting Jennifer's head gently. She was conscious, barely. Her voice was weak, but steady enough to form words. "I'm okay," she whispered. "I'm just tired. Please, let me finish. We need the money." Steve knelt beside her, holding her hand, looking into her eyes. He'd hosted thousands of episodes, seen tears, laughter, shock, joy. But something about this moment felt different. He looked up at the producers. They looked back at him, and in that silent exchange, a decision was made that would change everything. "Jennifer," Steve said softly, "we're not finishing the game. We're doing something else. Michael, get over here right now." What happened next would have nothing to do with points or prizes. It would be about time and life and love. It was March 30th, 2024, at the Family Feud studio in Atlanta. But Jennifer Matthews didn't feel like she was on a game show. She felt like she was running on borrowed energy. At 42 years old, she was living with stage 3 kidney disease. 3 years on the transplant list. 3 years of waiting. 3 years of dialysis, 3 times a week. 4 hours at a time, hooked to a machine that kept her alive while slowly draining everything else. She had lost 30 pounds without trying. Her hair had thinned. Her skin had paled. Walking from the house to the car left her breathless. Some mornings she couldn't remember what it felt like to wake up without pain. But she insisted on coming. She insisted on standing there. Because Michael had begged her to apply for the show, and she didn't understand why it mattered so much to him. Now she knew why she was scared. She was running out of time. Before Fast Money began, Steve asked the question he always asked. "What will you do with the money if you win?" Jennifer didn't hesitate. "Medical bills," she said. "I need a kidney transplant. This money will help me stay alive while I wait for a donor." The room went quiet. The laughter faded. The audience felt the weight of it. Steve nodded with genuine compassion. He glanced at Michael, standing with the family. Michael was crying, but not from sadness, from something else, something heavy, something he was holding inside. Because Michael knew something Jennifer didn't. And the producers knew too, but they waited. They let her play. They gave her one last moment of normal before the world shifted beneath her feet. She answered 4 Fast Money questions, pushing through dizziness, forcing focus, refusing to sit down. And then Steve asked the 5th, "Name something that gives you hope." Jennifer opened her mouth, and then her eyes rolled back. Her knees buckled, and the world tilted sideways. Steve caught her. The stage medic rushed in. Michael was already there, begging her to stay with him. Jennifer whispered that she was sorry she ruined the game. Michael shook his head, tears falling freely now. You didn't ruin anything. You didn't ruin anything. The medic checked her blood pressure. It was low, too low. Fluids were needed. When was your last dialysis? Yesterday, Jennifer said weakly. I'm okay. I just need to finish. Steve was still kneeling beside them when he said the words that changed everything. Jennifer, you don't need to finish the game. You don't need the money the way you think you do. Confusion crossed her face. What do you mean? Steve turned to Michael. You want to tell her, or should I? Michael's hands were shaking as he took Jennifer's hands in his. Jenny, 6 months ago, I did something without telling you. Her brow furrowed. What? The medic helped her sit upright as Michael took a breath that felt like it had been held for half a year. I got tested, he said, to see if I could be your kidney donor. I went to Johns Hopkins. They ran every test imaginable, blood work, tissue typing, antibody screening. It took weeks, and Jenny, I'm a match, a perfect match, 6 out of 6 antigens. The doctor said he'd only seen a handful like this in his entire career. Jennifer shook her head, tears spilling over. You're lying. You're just saying this to make me feel better. Steve reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. This is from Johns Hopkins Hospital. Your husband has been cleared for surgery. The transplant is scheduled May 15th, 6 weeks from now. Jennifer stared at the envelope like it might disappear if she blinked. You're serious? This is real? It's real, baby, Michael said. I kept it secret because I wanted you to have this moment. I wanted the world to see that you're not alone, that I'm giving you part of me so we can have more time together. Jennifer broke, not from pain, but from relief, from joy, from disbelief. She collapsed into Michael's arms sobbing as the entire studio rose to its feet. Steve wiped tears from his own face, unable to speak. Jennifer asked how long he'd known. September. He'd watched her suffer every day, fighting the urge to tell her, waiting for the right moment to turn fear into hope. He wanted her to see that love wasn't words, it was action, sacrifice, giving someone part of yourself so they could keep living. Jennifer finally looked up at Steve and asked through tears if that meant they couldn't finish fast money. Steve laughed softly, shaking his head. Jennifer, you don't need fast money. Your husband just gave you years. But Jennifer worried about the bills, the surgery, the recovery. Michael missing work. Steve smiled and said something that made the room gasp again. Let me worry about that. My foundation is covering everything, every cost. You're not paying a dime. And in that moment, surrounded by tears and applause, something happened on that stage that had nothing to do with television. Something sacred, something real. And as Jennifer and Michael held each other, as the audience applauded until their hands hurt, one question lingered in the air, one realization that hadn't fully landed yet, a realization that would turn this moment from a miracle into a movement. Because what happened next didn't just save Jennifer's life, it inspired thousands of others to step forward, to make phone calls, to get tested, and to change destinies far beyond that stage. The episode never aired the way any Family Feud episode ever had before. It couldn't. What happened on that stage couldn't be trimmed down into buzzer sounds and scoreboards. It was bigger than the game, bigger than ratings, bigger than television. The producers made the call to turn it into something else entirely, a special focused on living donation, on love that didn't wait for permission, on a secret that had been carried quietly for 6 months and revealed at the exact moment it mattered most. Within hours of the recording ending, people who worked on the show said they knew they'd been part of something that would follow them for the rest of their lives. And they were right. The clip spread faster than anyone expected. First online, then across news outlets, then across the world. People didn't just watch it, they felt it. They shared it with family members, with friends, with people they'd been meaning to call for a long time. Within 48 hours, more than 50,000 people had signed up to be organ donors, not because they were told to, not because they were pressured, but because they saw what love looked like when it became action. Within a week, that number climbed past 200,000. Doctors noticed, hospitals noticed, transplant centers noticed. Waiting lists that had barely moved in years suddenly began to shift. Jennifer and Michael barely had time to process what had happened before the world was knocking on their door. Interviews, messages, letters, strangers telling them that their story had changed something inside them. Jennifer tried to read as many as she could between dialysis sessions, between doctor visits, between days when her body still reminded her that the transplant hadn't happened yet. Because even with hope, the waiting didn't stop. The pain didn't vanish overnight. But something had changed. For the first time in 3 years, she wasn't counting down in fear. She was counting forward. May 15th arrived quietly. No cameras in the operating room, no applause, just a sterile hospital hallway at Johns Hopkins and 2 gurneys being wheeled side by side. Michael squeezed Jennifer's hand before they separated. "I'll see you on the other side," he told her. And for the first time in a long time, she believed him. The surgery took hours. Surgeons moved with calm precision, nurses watched monitors, and when the new kidney was connected, something remarkable happened. It started working immediately. No hesitation, no struggle, as if it had been waiting to come home. Michael woke up sore, exhausted, but smiling. Jennifer woke up different. Not healed yet, not suddenly perfect, but different in a way she couldn't fully describe. Within days, dialysis was gone. Within weeks, color returned to her face. Her appetite came back. She slept through the night without pain for the first time in years. 6 weeks later, she walked outside without getting winded. She laughed without feeling like it might cost her energy she couldn't spare. She felt alive. 3 months later, she and Michael sat across from Steve Harvey again, this time on his talk show. Jennifer looked like a different person, healthy, bright, present. Steve asked her how she felt, and she said something simple that stayed with everyone who heard it. "I feel like I can breathe again." Michael was asked if he had any regrets. He didn't hesitate, not one. He talked about the recovery, the discomfort, the changes he'd had to make, and then he shrugged. "I have 1 kidney and my wife is alive. That's not a sacrifice. That's a gift." They didn't disappear after that. They leaned into what had happened. They spoke at conferences. They visited hospitals. They sat with patients who were waiting the way Jennifer had waited and told them that hope wasn't a fantasy, that sometimes the person who could save your life was closer than you thought. Jennifer got a small tattoo on her wrist, a kidney with Michael's initials inside it. Michael got the same one. They called them their forever tattoos, reminders that their lives were now connected in a way that went beyond vows or rings. Steve kept a photo from that day on his desk, the moment right after the reveal, Jennifer and Michael on the stage floor holding each other while the world stood still around them. He said later that it reminded him why he did what he did, why stories mattered, why platforms mattered, because sometimes a show didn't just entertain, sometimes it saved lives. Jennifer went back to nursing, Michael went back to teaching, but they weren't the same people who'd walked onto that stage. They moved through the world with gratitude sharpened by memory. Jennifer once said that she felt like she died on that stage, not physically, but emotionally, and then was given another life in front of everyone. Michael put it even more simply. "Love is spelled time," he said, "and I wanted more time with my wife." And somewhere, because of what they shared, someone made a phone call, someone got tested, Someone became a match. Someone lived. And that's the part of this story that keeps growing, even now, long after the applause faded. Because when love becomes action, it doesn't end when the cameras turn off. And the final thing Jennifer said, the thought that stayed with everyone who heard it, was this: sometimes the most valuable thing you can win isn't money, it's time.